Okay, I want to get another NFL topic out. I wanted to talk about the Baltimore Ravens, the defending champs. Um, as a team, they had some of the biggest roster moves. They uh, they got rid of a lot of starters, a lot of guys who contributed to the Super Bowl ring. Um, they scared a lot of fans. I know of plenty of fans who didn't like some of the roster moves. Some understood that they had to do it to free up cap space. They had to get rid of a lot of older guys. Um, two of the bigger name players retired. Ray Lewis and Matt Burke. They both retired. Um, Ed Reed went to the Titans. Bernard Pollard went to. I apologize. Ed Reed went to the Texans. Bernard Pollard went to the Titans. That was guard Bobby Williams. Janelle Ellaby. Um, he he went to Cincinnati. Paul Kruger went to. I apologize. Janelle Ellaby went to the Dolphins. Paul Kruger went to Cleveland. Anquan Bolden went to the Niners, which I thought was dumb. They should have paid him. At least, if anyone, they should have paid him. Um, and they lost a couple other guys, but those were some of their main guys. And if I'm missing any, just let me know. When I'm doing these reviews, sometimes I overlook something that I didn't cover in the review. So if there's anything I left out, just let me know in the comment section. Um, but they turned around and they picked up some nice pieces. Um, Also in both the draft, and they also retained a couple players. Of course, they still have Torrey Smith. They picked up Chris Canty from the Giants. They still have Terrell Suggs. They picked up Elvis Dumervil as a free agent from the Denver Broncos. Marcus Spears from Dallas. Um, Matt Elam from Florida was drafted by them. Michael Huff from the Oakland Raiders. Mm, Rolando McClain from the Oakland Raiders. They still got a young guy, Courtney Upshaw. Jimmy Smith had a really good playoffs. So they still have a lot of talent on the defensive end, and offensively they still have Ray Rice and Pierce at running back. So as a good tandem. Like I said, they still have Torrey Smith, speed guy, Jacoby Jones, another speed guy, Dennis Pettit, really big tight end. We just have to see how will Joe Flacco react to making such a huge contract. Um, will his play falter? It's always tough trying to come back after winning the previous season and coming back trying to compete once again. The guys really have to motivate themselves. But as a team that's currently constituted, I mean, it's a lot better than people would say. Will say guys like Arthur Brown, Ladarius Webb is coming back from injury. So the team is not as bad as people say. They got younger in the secondary, getting their read. We knew Ray Lewis was about done. So we'll have to see how much will they miss Anquan Bolden. They had the luxury because of their division hasn't really gotten that much better. Pittsburgh, like I said, really didn't make a whole bunch of roster changes. They still got an older defense. Ben Roethlisberger still takes a beating, so they still have the edge up on them. Cincinnati has improved, but not really not by much. They didn't get another receiver that they needed. So, well, will they? Can they repeat? No, it's always a wait and see game. There's always many factors in terms of football. You got special teams. You got injuries. Injuries play a big part. That usually cost teams. Um, that usually cost teams a lot. Injuries. Having to deal with that throughout the season. So we'll have to see. Uh, will Well, the Ravens, I still think they're gonna make the playoffs. Like I said, they have some nice pieces on defense. Now, can I say they've replaced some of the guys that they got rid of? No, but like I said, they've gotten younger, especially in that secondary, and they got more depth with guys like Rolando McClain and Marcus Spears, Chris Can- Chris Canty. So they've gotten a lot of depth in the front seven. And I think that's going to be big for them in terms of pass rush and slowing down the run. Also, their running game is still going to be strong. Ray Rice, yeah, he was doing a lot of fumbling near the end of the year in playoffs, so they kind of went away from him. But I could see them going to splitting because he's going to split time with a guy like Pierce, and that's going to become a nice 1-2 punch for them. Um, like I said, it all comes down to Flacco. It came down to him in the playoffs. Had an excellent playoff run. I by no means will take anything away from him. Did they overpay him? Yeah, I would say yeah. People would probably disagree with me. Like 8 touchdowns, zero interceptions, but um, you paid him Aaron Rodgers money. You paid him Peyton Manning money. I don't think he's good as those guys, but he's definitely I would say top 10 quarterback. He definitely proved it. He went out on the field, made plays, couple Hail Mary luck throws, but for the most part, he made plays. Didn't make too many mistakes, and the team rallied around him in the playoffs. Man, that's what everybody has to remember. It's a team sport. You had guys that stepped up, like I said, Jimmy Smith with Ladarius Webb being injured, got injured early on in the season. He stepped up. Courtney Upshaw, Paul Kruger, a guy who's no longer with the team, Terrell Suggs. Um, they really had got Bernard Pollard, especially Bernard Pollard in the Patriots game. He always plays well against the Patriots. So they had guys to step up, man. It wasn't just Joe Flacco. It wasn't just the offense. It was a complete team effort. Coming to this year, of course, like I said, they have new pieces. We'll see how they incorporate some of these guys. How these guys fit. The coaching staff will, because I was actually surprised from the coaching staff because they've gotten a lot of flack throughout the years of a lot of poor plays being called, but they really called it pretty good this year. The team, of course, rallied around all that. But I wanted to go through the schedule just to name off some of the teams they play and see what their schedule will be tough or not. I went through some of the other teams' schedule. Okay, hold on for a second. Looking for the schedule. Okay, can't find it. Okay, bear with me. Yeah. Okay. Like I said, we'll have to see how the coaching staff, how the coaching staff does, and also, you know, just how the players. Yeah, you got a lot of guys who come from other teams, and you got to incorporate new guys to the team. You got to incorporate other guys into the team. Okay, I just got the schedule up. I apologize. For some reason I couldn't find it. I had it up. Okay. Of course. Wow. First game of the season for them, regular season. They had the Denver Broncos. Same team they beat in in the divisional game. Wow. That's big. That's a major statement, and to see. have these new pieces. Were these new pieces the right move, or did they make a mistake? I mean, yeah, it's only one game, but it's a huge test. You're talking about one of the better teams in the AFC. They have the Browns, division rival. They always play them tough. The Texans, um, okay, they play Cleveland in week 2. Week 3, you got the Texans. Um, Ed Reed gets to come back to Baltimore, so we'll have to see the reaction to that. Um, Week 4, they had the Bills. The Bills, a struggling team. They don't have no direction at quarterback. They really struggle on defense. The Dolphins, like I said, LB went to the Dolphins. The Dolphins have a new receiver in Mike Wallace. We'll have to see. That's a team we have to watch, especially with pretty pretty much the AFC East being pretty open. So it's week 5 against the Dolphins, week 6 against the Packers. As long as they got Aaron Rodgers, they're always gonna be competitive. But it's a very winnable game because the Packers did not improve too much on defense on the defensive end. Week 7, the Steelers. That's always a tough game. Always a defensive battle. It's always pretty close, so it's very hard to predict a win in a game like that. It really against any of the division games, it's hard to predict who's gonna come out on top. Week 8 is a bye. Week 9 is the Browns again. Like I said, another divisional game. After that, Cincinnati is a divisional game. The Bears in Week 11. That we'll have to wait and see. We'll see with the Bears. The Bears constantly have injuries, so we have to see if the Bears team held up by Week 11. But if Jay Cutler's on his game, he can give them a tough game. The Jets. Sorry about all the Jets fans, but the Jets are in complete chaos. Not only last year going through the Tim Tebow thing, losing Darrell Reeves, they're in complete chaos. Losing Ron Landry, really no direction at quarterback, no running game. I I can see that being an easy win for the Ravens. It's like week 13 division game against the Steelers, the second game, which is an away game. The first one at week 7 was a home game. The Vikings, the Vikings slipped into the playoffs, but I it's a tough team. Really, other than Adrian Peterson, they have really no direction at quarterback. The defense, the defense has struggled. They lost some guys on defense. So the Vikings, you know, every given Sunday, any team can come out on top, but no, the Vikings, I don't see them doing very well. Not only that game, but the entire season. The Lions, the Lions lost Cliff Averill. I, Baltimore, they don't have. Let me go through the rest of the schedule. Of course, the Lions week 15, Patriots, which is always a rival game, week 16, and week 17 they ended with the Cincinnati Bengals. That schedule doesn't look too tough. Of course, they play the AFC East, and they play the NFC North. The schedule doesn't look very hard. The AFC East is very weak with Bills. The Dolphins are going to be better, but can't expect that much out of them. Of course, the Patriots are still going to be there. The Jets are horrible. They also play. Let me see. So teams that I can say now, this is not going to be how the season's going to play out, but teams I can say who are going to give them a matchup. Week 1, Denver, of course, is going to give them a good game. The Browns, simply because they're a division rival. The Texans, the Texans got better defensively. The Packers, mainly because of Aaron Rodgers and what he can do on the field. Steelers, another division game. Um, Bengals, a division game. The Bears, not so much. Um, they still have problems in the front seven. The front seven is still pretty good, but losing Urlacher, his leadership. I mean, he didn't play too well, but it was just his leadership. But under a new coach, we'll have to see. It's pretty much a wait and see thing with the Bears. So I'm gonna say they could give him a run. Of course, Steelers again. The Patriots. The Patriots always always play them tough. The game's always down to the wire. Aside from the AFC Championship game where the Ravens pretty much dominated that game. So like I said, if you have any more teams you want me to do, I went through the schedule. I went through some of the roster moves. What I think what I think about the team and the outlook for next season. Everything, like I said, everything is subject to change. This is purely speculation, of what I thought I saw during the offseason. Some of the big moves. Um, like I said, if you're a Ravens fan, let me know what you think down in the comments. What did you like? What did not like about the off season? What is your outlook about upcoming season and the schedule? And also, if you're a fan of another team, just let me know down in the comments. What team do you want to see me do? I'm more than likely can get around to it. I believe I have another team in mind that someone wanted me to do. But I got to go back and check and see what team that is. But if you have another team that you want me to do, just let me know. Like and subscribe. Thanks.